So, I really believe in the power of the universe, and I do believe that there is a reason why you are here right now. And before we begin, Barb and I want you to know we've been where all of you are now. Barbara came out in 2017, and I came out in 2016. And although it's 8 years ago now, it was really, yeah, it's 8 years ago now. It feels like a lifetime ago, and it also feels just like yesterday. Barb, would you agree with that?
Okay. Okay. Yes. I would say that, well, I mean, you've considered I'm a 51-year-old woman that I've only been out for the last 6.5 years. So on the one hand, enough time to be able to get a lot of experience in it. Like if you do anything for 6 years, you probably become a bit of an expert at it. But it also sometimes feels like just yesterday. It's just a fraction of my life, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So, what we both want to tell you is, you see pride parades and stuff like that. And I'm going to say that it was definitely not a parade. It was probably one of the most wonderful things I've ever done in my life. And it was also really, really hard. And so today we're going to talk about some of the reasons why it was really, really difficult for me. But the amazing thing is that if you fast forward to today, and I'm going to say this for all of you, and it may not that your life's journey may not take you to be helping other people coming out later in life. You may, after this experience, do something different that is deeply personal and moving to you. So I've helped thousands of people come out later in life, and Barb and I started working together 3 years after I started my company. Barb, besides being an absolutely wonderful person, put my content creation through the roof, and has helped me with the individual and group coaching and the mutual support groups. I have a couple of Facebook groups. One is secret and hidden, and you can't find it anywhere. So if you are just in the beginning of that process, let me know and I can add you to that group. My second group is called Later in Life Support and Forum. You can find it if you um, search for it in the Facebook box where you search for things, but also just tell me and I can add you to both or one of those groups. It is really important to have community, and it is so nice to talk to others who understand. So, I also have a podcast, which some of you know me from, which is Coming Out and Beyond. I have been doing that for several years now. We are on my fifth season, and Barb stepped in as my producer last year as well. So it has been really such a ride, and we're going to go to weekly shows now. So I'm pretty excited about that. So these are some of the people that I helped. In the top corner, that is Olivia Hill. I don't know if you know Olivia, but she's been all over the national news lately. She is the first transgender person elected to political office in the state of Tennessee. And we became good friends when we both started. We both came out at about the same time, and we both live in Nashville. And if you ever want to hear Olivia's story, go into the first season of my podcast, and you're able to hear Olivia's coming out story. Some of the other pictures, the ladies are in the pool, a retreat I did in New Mexico. The big picture and the picture of me hugging somebody in the middle is my oldest daughter after I was ordained as a minister. And then some of the other pictures are the groups that I have had over the years. And I have done 7 retreats in Nashville now, and these are some of the ladies that came to these retreats. So I have a lot of clients' testimonials, and I would love for you to take a look at them. They're on my Facebook page. So who am I? I was raised in a chaotic home. I find most people who've come out later in life are raised in a chaotic home, whether it is dealing with alcoholism or drug use or rage or anger or mental illness. There is something that happens that we are often raised in a chaotic home. I lived a very heteronormative life until 50. I was married to my ex-husband for 26 years. And I'm also divorced. I am queer. I am the mom of 4 kids. I have cared for aging parents. I have been a consistent spiritual seeker to my wife, to a spiritual seeker my entire life. I am married to my wife. That's the picture in the corner is the night before we got married at our uh, at our rehearsal dinner. I moved from Connecticut to Nashville, Tennessee after I came up. I consistently show up for people. I love to travel. I'm funny, kind. I have a bit of a temper, and I'm passionate. I'm also the youngest of 5 children by 9 years, actually. So I have this unique position of being only youngest. I love Broadway shows. People joke with me that there's a gay man inside of me desperately trying to get out. I am a soccer fan, and I really do love a good book. Um, Professionally, this is who I am. I am a graduate of Yale Divinity School. I graduated the Women's Leadership Institute program from Hartford Seminary. I am an ordained minister in the Progressive United Church of Christ. I'm a clinically trained chaplain, a bereavement counselor, adult development and training expert. I have a diversity training certificate from Girl Scouts. Used to work for Girl Scouts for about 6 years. I am the owner of Amory Zanza Coaching, and I'm an entrepreneur, and I'm an owner of Purposeful Empowerment. And side note, I was a general contractor for 3 house renovations. I'm a hospice chaplain, and I'm also a coming out coach. So, Barb, who are you?
Well, folks, I'm it's a middle child, so therefore I am the peacekeeper, and I'm the person who sort of brokers peace between others in my family, and I'm a recovering people pleaser. You mentioned chaotic homes, and I was raised by a parent who had mental illness, so that explains a lot. I was married to a man for 21 years until I came out in 2017 as a result of a catalyst relationship. I am the mom of 2 grown daughters. My oldest daughter is transgender, so we are a very queer affirming family. I have one surviving parent, and my dad passed away from Parkinson's disease within just a couple of months of my coming out. I am living joyfully single and dating. I've had lesbian relationships in the past 6 years, some of them a little bit longer term. And now I'm just sort of enjoying the dating world. And I am Canadian. I live in the beautiful Kawartha Lakes region of Ontario, and I live on a flower farm with my sister. We both have a passion for growing. And I'm also, right now, I am currently a student, earning my master's of counseling psychology. I also show up for people. And something I've done that's been kind of extraordinary that happened just after coming out was that I overcame a lifelong phobia of driving. I just learned to drive when I was 46 years old. So, bravery begets bravery. I'm the mom to a wonderful golden retriever named Stella. I love dancing. I love singing. I play guitar and ukulele, and I use songwriting to work through my big feelings and my life experiences.
Well, thank
And professionally, well, I'm a graduate of the University of Toronto. I've formerly have worked at municipal and county levels in tourism. So I'm good at rallying people and grant writing. I've worked in recreation with seniors as well, but I've been self-employed for about the last 7 years, serving a handful of very loyal clients, including Anne-Marie. And I'm great at content strategy and generation with an emphasis on writing and graphic design and audio and video editing. And I'm also a published author. So that's me in a nutshell.
good for you. Hey, Barb, can you make sure everybody's getting into the meeting okay?
Yeah, you bet.
Thank you. Okay, so before I get started, I wanted to show you one of my favorite graphics. And I put this up in the group this morning. I saw this graphic a long time ago, and it really resonates with me because I do believe that coming out process is basically this. We are in a comfort zone a lot of the time. We have been in places of, um, we have been in places that have made us feel safe and secure. And all of a sudden, we know that we need to make a change. And so what ends up happening is that we um, begin to have fear. And as you can see, that as we have fear, we have procrastinations and excuses, lack of self confidence, affected by others' opinions, afraid to take risks. If you want to raise your hand and let us know that's you, I'd love to see those hands up. And then we go through the learning zone. So once we sort of conquer the fear zone about coming out, then we are able to go into the learning zone and to the growth zone. And I'm going to let you in on a little secret here. This is every time we want to make a big change in our life. We go
Hmm.
to the comfort zone, the fear zone, the learning zone, and then the growth zone. And then you do it again. So, for example, with this with this workshop that we're doing, I was in my comfort zone doing my business a certain way. I have moved over to something, a different platform now to do my business. And so, I mean, I'm not I'll tell you the greatest gift coming out gave to me. I don't get too scared of things anymore. So I go through
Hmm.
the fear zone very, very quickly. But now I'm in the learning zone on how to do a workshop using what is called a funnel, all kinds of things like that, and have learned stuff because this is the first time we've done this way. And I've learned a lot of things. So next time it'll only get better. And hopefully I'll be in the growth zone soon. So,
Everything's figure outable, right?
yeah, I know. And so the question we're going to ask here today is maybe I'm not straight. And why is coming out so dang hard? And I have sort of distilled it to four different reasons. And there is a combination of these reasons for every one of us. Um, there are, and some may be a little bit bigger than others, while some may be a little bit smaller. And there is some real reasons that have that are greater than you, that are bigger than you. And that is why coming out is so dang hard. So the first thing
Hmm.
I want to talk about is conditioning. Um, we are all conditioned from the time we are little girls until we until our entire life, really, right? So let's think of some of the ways we have been conditioned. So think back to when you were a little girl. How were you told to behave? What were some of the ways that you were told to behave? You can put it in the chat, and I will make sure everyone. Or you can unmute right now and just, you will not be on screen. We'll just hear your voice. But what are some of the ways you were conditioned growing up?
I'm gonna chime in and say, do as you're told.
Yes, do as you're told. What are some other ways? I was conditioned. Okay, so I was born in my very late in my parents' life. They were 40 and 44 when I was born. Both of them were what they call the greatest generation. And and one of the things that they did is I was conditioned to be a certain way. I was conditioned to be a good Catholic girl, go to school, um, be a good girl, and also to act like a lady. Linda has told us to grow up being a people pleaser, mostly to their mom, and um, but mostly to her mom to keep the peace. That was what she was taught to do. So another thing I want to talk about is cognitive dissonance. So this is really why coming out is so hard because we often, through our conditioning, hold very strong core beliefs. And so when there is evidence, when they are presented, people are presented with evidence that works against that belief, the new evidence can't be accepted. So it creates what is an extremely uncomfortable feeling called cognitive dissonance. So it is so important for them to protect that core belief. We will rationalize, ignore, and even deny anything that doesn't fit in with the core belief. So, Barb, how does this affect us as we are living our heteronormative life? What do we do as women to rationalize, ignore, and deny?
Well, we did make a decision. That's because two things that are opposing cannot be true in our minds. We, I think, often take the route that is easiest and where we will be most accepted. So, if we are have hold two beliefs of like, say, I see representation of lesbians in popular culture that are don't represent me, or characters or people who are of derision, like subjects of derision. That's what a lesbian is, and yet I have these feelings. Well, the easier path to take the one that's expected of us, and to deny, and also we're taught not to listen to our own voices, right?
Right. Yeah.
So to deny that those feelings of like, oh, I can't be gay because I don't look like that,
Right. Or
that represent me, or religion, that was another one, big one too, right? Like I could be a person of faith and believe in what my church is telling me that being gay is bad. I have feelings of same-sex attraction. Which one is the easier road to go?
well, yes, I think it's also the easier road to go, but also too, I think sometimes we really want to stick to our core beliefs, right?
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
mean, because they are part of the foundation of who we are. And when we have something that threatens the core belief that, oh, I'm not a straight mommy of four kids, I'm actually a lesbian mommy of four kids,
Mhm.
that shakes my belief about myself. My core identity is beginning to shift. And so
Mhm.
with cognitive dissonance, I keep getting other messages that I may not be straight, but I refuse to, I either ignore them, I deny them, or I will rationalize them. So, for example,
Mhm.
I used to find very women like, I would see women in art or women in magazines or the luscious Sophia Varga on Modern Family. And I would see them and I would think to myself, oh my God, they're so beautiful. And then be like attracted to them. But then my processing would go like this. Oh, you know, they are, we sexualize women and women are seen as objects of beauty. And so we put them in art and media. We put, body parts in to sell cars. So I have been bombarded with all of these things for my entire life. So, and so therefore I am not gay.
Sure. And a really common, like at least it's something I've experienced, and I've heard other women talk about this as well. So when they, see a woman who they are attracted to, well, you know what I'm going to say. I admire her.
Yeah.
There's
I admire her or I want to be like her. And
I
they,
want to be like her. And no, 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 that's not what the underlying feeling is, but that's how we translate it to make it acceptable to ourselves.
yes. So the other thing that happens to people is that we talk about compulsory heterosexuality as well. So I really love the I would say this is much more than a theory. I
Mhm.
think this is true.
Yep.
I think that this is a proven theorem. And I do believe that heterosexuality is forced upon women in a patriarchal and heteronormative society,
Hmm.
much the way roles are forced upon women. Adrienne Rich, who popularized the term in her 1980 essay, stated that women are socialized to prefer relationships with men and they devalue with their other relationships with other women. They're encouraged to identify with males and discouraged from identifying with other females.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why they always talk about, oh, a bunch of women will get together and fight. And actually, that's not true most of the
No.
time. And one of the things I want to just bring up, so if you're still married and your husband has said to you, oh, that's okay, you can go and explore this relationship with a woman,
Mm-hmm.
would they ever say that if it was a man?
No.
No.
No, because it's not considered real.
Right. And
Valid.
women are so devalued in our culture.
Mm-hmm.
A man can't simply like wrap his head around that if his wife ends up in a relationship with the woman, the wife will choose the woman over the male relationship. Because not only have men received this message, or women have received this message, but also men as well. So we are always encouraged to have relationships with men, but we're also given messages like, oh, men relationships with men are hard,
Mm-hmm.
all those things that we receive to live this compulsory heterosexual life. And
Mm-hmm.
once you become aware of it, you can't unsee it.
Mm-hmm. Oh, for sure. For sure.
So the next thing I'm going to talk about is internalized homophobia. So internalized homophobia is when queer people like ourselves listen to negative messages about being gay and we believe them, right? Um,
Mm-hmm.
and sometimes they're really, overt messages like, anybody who is gay is bad. You get it from your family or your church communities. Your dad may see somebody on TV and call them a slur. Your mom might do the same thing.
Yeah.
So it is, and sometimes it's more indirectly. Like, Barb, when you were young, what were some of the taunts and insults that were used?
Oh, I mean, just the word lesbian was kind of a dirty word. You didn't want to be. I can remember specifically an incident in grade school of that happening, of a girl in our class being taunted and called a lesbian. And she ran crying out of the gym because it was a bad word, right?
Mhm.
You know, a lot of times I think that we think of those messages coming down from like conservative faith, but in fact, those kinds of messages are everywhere or have been everywhere in popular media, in just in society in general. Like, if you were growing up in the 70s, 80s, 90s, there was no representation, and the representation that we did see was not positive, particularly when it comes to being gay and being a woman.
Right, absolutely. And also too, I think one of the reasons why the Gen Zs are so much, 20 to 30% of all Gen Zs identify as LGBTQ. And I think the
Mhm.
reason is because all of a sudden those things are not seen as bad anymore.
Oh
There's
yeah.
representation in the culture because before there wasn't representation.
Hmm.
I just want to say that I'd like to give you my own definition of internalized homophobia. I have found across the board that most women who come out later in life are often huge allies to the community.
Yes.
Um, they have queer kids like both you and I do.
Hmm.
They're very, very accepting of people. I have one client that's a huge fundraiser for PFLAG, but the only person that can't be gay is them.
Is them. Yeah.
Yeah. And so just because you have internalized homophobia doesn't mean you're homophobic. Does
Yes.
that make sense?
It does. It's really more about shame,
Yes,
right?
it is about shame. So there's people who feel shame about being gay tend to exhibit a common pattern of behaviors.
Hmm.
Um, that denial, right? I just admire
I
her.
admire her. Yes.
Um, the secrecy, the inability to come out to save people, even if you really want to. Can I tell you something funny, Barb? When I came out um, to my sister and my best friend from high school, this is how strong denial and secrecy is. When I came out to them in the final in 2016, I had already come out to them before. Why
Wow.
my sister and my best friend, like respectively, like 5 years and 20 years before.
Wow.
I had totally denied, I totally forgot about it.
Blocked it out.
And both of those people were saved, but my denial was so great. And also the way our society is formed, like neither one of them ever asked me about it again.
Right. They
So
probably didn't know what to say, right?
yeah, right. And so when confronted, sometimes you insist that you aren't gay. That hasn't happened to me. Has that happened to you, like when you were living your straight life?
People insisting, oh no, you're not really gay.
No, like when, yeah, exactly. Like a lot of times people that are in the glass closet will present more, will present and people will insist they're gay and they like,
Mhm,
yeah,
mhm.
vigorously deny they're not, right?
Yeah, when I first came out, I had a lot of people assume that I was bisexual,
Mhm.
because I had been married to a man for so long and, had talked about being attracted to men. Um, so they just presumed that this new thing was an add-on.
Mhm.
And I can remember, as my journey got a little further down, and I mean, at first I didn't know how I identified, but when I started to figure out like I was not going backwards again, I was not going to be dating men again, and I started to call myself a lesbian, and that was really surprising.
Mhm.
For some of my nearest and dearest, they're like, "Really, you're a lesbian? I thought you were bisexual." I'm like, Actually, you know what? Now that I've had a little practice." I'm not going back.
You come out selectively. You only come out to a couple of people.
Yeah.
And then the next three things is really by you insist other people keep your secret. You
Mhm.
insist that your girlfriend keeps your secret even though she's out, or both of you are in the closet together at the same time, which is absolutely exhausting.
Oh,
And also, not telling people when people ask you, oh, do you have a boyfriend and you've been dating women for 10 years? You say, oh, I don't have a relationship right now, right?
mhm,
So
mhm,
there's a lot of ways that internalized homophobia shows up. And I think one of the most significant ways is when we don't claim our authenticity. Um, Oftentimes it creates barriers that we're not even aware of.
for sure.
And so meaningful relationships require honesty and intimacy.
Mhm,
So
mhm,
I'm thinking about here is like somebody who from the beginning knows they're queer
mhm,
and gets married to a opposite gender person
mhm,
anyway,
mhm,
and because they want to be in a straight appearing relationship, they want to
mhm,
have things that they fear they cannot have when they are in a queer relationship, so they marry somebody straight. Well, they're never going to have that type of intimacy you would have when you're married to somebody who is the correct gender for your sexual orientation, because you simply can't.
yeah.
You can be best friends. You really can be best friends with somebody that you raise children with,
Mm.
but that honesty, that intimacy, the deep intimacy of romantic partners often doesn't exist.
No, and we see this in women all the time, right? Like who they live with their husbands are their best friends,
Mhm.
but they just aren't connected to that way, and they're not content to stay in that kind of comfort zone area because they realize, life's ticking away, and the opportunity for connection and to feel that like what I've heard you describe as, physical, emotional, spiritual connection that you can really only have with somebody who is the same gender as you if you are a queer person,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Um, So, and the exhaustion that comes with hiding too, I think is, I mean, it wears away at your soul.
It does.
Yeah.
So Barb and I, let me just cross this out right now. Barb and I encourage you to take a look at the homework. It is chapter page 7
Page 7. Yep.
in the book, and a lot of the material in the book covers what we have talked about here today. Tomorrow we are going to be talking about relationships. A lot of us realize we're not as straight as we think we are because we
Mhm.
have fallen in love with another woman,
Mhm.
and that is called a catalyst. Or some of us have gone through have gotten divorced, or maybe still married, and now we're in a relationship with another woman, and it has brought up oftentimes things we've never expected.
Yeah.
And so we're going to talk a little bit about that tomorrow, because I would say probably a full 50% of the women who come out later in life have a catalyst relationship. And that makes them realize, whether it's somebody who's already in the LGBTQ community, two best friends fall in love,
Mhm.
just something happens and it makes them realize they're not as straight as they thought
Mhm.
they were.
It either sparks old feelings that they have pushed away for a really long time and not thought about for a while, or in other cases, like mine, for example, it sparks something entirely new that you didn't know existed within yourself. So it
Right.
comes as a big surprise.
Right. And there is a lot of fluidity to women's sexuality.
Yes.
And so people's sexuality can change as they get older. And
Mhm.
so there is room, but this is the thing, there's room enough for all of the ways we come to this in our community. And Barb and I are really want to help you. We want to help you make this journey not as hard, and
Mhm.
you to have community and you have other people to talk to and be with, and to explore this in a way that is safe and secure. So I hope we see you tomorrow at noon. All the technical difficulties will be worked out tomorrow. Barb will hopefully have electricity. We will go unmuted, all those fun things. So be well. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.